Good morning, Purdue University. Welcome to Next Point Wins. I am your host, Matthew Geely. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today on this Friday, October the 13th, Friday the 13th. Got a fun show planned for you today. A lot to cover. For those of you listening on WCCR Purdue and the Tuned In app, thank you for listening live. For those listening later tonight on the podcast on YouTube or SoundCloud, I appreciate your support as well. Have a lot of exciting news to get to on today's show. We got Cubs recap from their game-winning clinch of the series last night against the Nationals. We'll also talk about some of the big headlines that popped up this morning. USA fires their head coach for the men's soccer team, as well as Ezekiel Elliott officially suspended 6 games in court. So he will have to serve that suspension unless something comes about in their bye week this week. Also, we'll preview Purdue football against Wisconsin coming up this weekend at Wisconsin. Another top 10 ranked opponent for Purdue to take on, this time traveling on the road to do it. And before we get to that, we will also recap last week's big home win against Minnesota. After that lightning delay, we'll have plenty of recap there, plus a bunch of other things. And an unsportsmanlike conduct that is going to go down as the biggest and most controversial unsportsmanlike conduct we've ever seen. And it's going to be the biggest one I've ever handed out. Looking forward to it. Got a lot to cover, so let's get right into it. We're going to start with what happened last night for you students here on campus who were able to witness what was a rather embarrassing bit of officiating and kind of unheard of in the Purdue women's soccer game last night. They took on Nebraska at home, and after trailing 2-0 going into the second half, they got goals from Maddie Williams and Andrea Petrina, and Petrina's equalizer late in the game tied it at 2, so they go to overtime. And if you're new to soccer or new to soccer rules, in college, overtime, they call it the golden goal. Basically, they play 2 shortened halves, and it's next point wins. I mean, that's what it is. If you score a goal, you win. It's like sudden death. And then after that, it ends in a tie. Purdue went down the field. They had a nice kind of cross, and Kylie Haas put it in the net, and the ball had crossed the line from my angle and from my vision. The ball had crossed the line, and then Vanessa Corrales, she tapped it, but it was already in the goal, in my opinion, from what I saw. And so since it was already in the goal, we all thought that it was considered a good goal. Come to find out, they called Vanessa offsides, but if the ball was already in the goal, then it doesn't matter what she did with it because it's already a goal. Well, they overturn it and take the goal off the board for Purdue, and then seconds later, Nebraska goes right down the field and stuns Purdue, scoring a goal to end the game. So really a roller coaster of events. I don't really know how you come back from a heartbreaking loss like that, especially when you won the game, and then they turn around and they take it away. So Boilermakers' next game will be against Iowa on Sunday at home. Start out the season really strong. Purdue did on the road, getting a couple nice wins. They've kind of skidded here at late, but Sunday's another opportunity to build that resume and add another goal and win to the season. It'll be interesting to see how they rebound, if it's difficult or easy for them. And so that's that. It was tough to watch. I thought as a team, Purdue played really well, especially in the second half. Maddie Williams has been amazing for Purdue all year long. She's setting career records for herself and in the program with her points and goals. And then you add the senior leadership of Andrea Petrina, who also loves to get on that box score and score goals. And then Vanessa Corrales, who does everything. She plays offense, she plays defense. A lot of good seniors on that team. And they are putting together one of the better seasons, personally, I've seen since I've been here at Purdue. And it's going to go down as one of the better seasons in the last decade for Purdue soccer. So Coach Drew has his team playing really well, and hopefully they can rebound on Sunday. It'll be exciting to see. I'll be out there at the games. Those games are free to students, and I strongly suggest more students go out to these games because they are a lot of fun. And that's coming from a guy who's never really been a soccer fan, but these games are fun to watch because these girls play really, really hard, and it's really entertaining. Also, you can contact the show, nextptwins@gmail.com. You can also tweet at me, Matt_Gili, Gigli on Twitter. That's where also you're going to find the poll question for the day, and I'll read that at the moment. And that poll question is, which professional sport does the coach have the most impact on a team? So in which sport does having a good coach, I guess you can look at it as which sport do the coaches make the most decisions? And you can also look at it as which sport is it most important to have a good coach at the head of your team. Options are MLB, NFL, NBA, and NHL. I took this poll question off of what's been one of the major storylines of the postseason baseball this year, and that is coaching errors. And you saw Joe Girardi get, I would say, verbally abused on social media and from critics about not challenging a play that resulted in the other team hitting a grand slam. Luckily, they were able to get out of that Indians series and able to move on because, I mean, a lot of people are talking about that's a career-ending mistake for Joe Girardi. But Yankees move on, and they're going to take on the Astros. So I don't know if that saved his job quite yet. I would assume so. I think they're crazy to get rid of him. I also thought it was kind of knee-jerk reaction to automatically assume that you should fire somebody because they make one mistake like that. But then you also look at teams like Joe Madden and the Cubs. I mean, the game last night, the way both managers manage their bullpens. I mean, I think that's where in MLB you see the most direct impact because you see challenges in the NHL, you see challenges in the NFL. I don't think we're far away from challenges in the NBA. I mean, I know we have some replay reviews, ball touched out of bounds and whatnot, but I mean, coaches can challenge in almost every sport because we're bringing technology into the games and trying to take away the human error of the games. But I think in the MLB, you see a direct response from coaches who have to manage their bullpens and their starters and matchups, righty-lefty. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. You can put NHL kind of right behind them with mixing up lines and trying to pair this defense against the opposing team's lines or vice versa. So I would say NHL has kind of a closer correlation than most sports. I'm interested to see what you guys' responses are. So the poll will be up all day. Any podcast listeners, go to my Twitter page later tonight and cast your vote. I'll give the results from this hour of the show later on. Also, a couple big announcements and two huge announcements, really. And I'm excited for both of them. So let's get right into it. First off, I want to say thank you to all you listeners and supporters out there of the podcast and the radio station. We hit 1,000 listeners last episode, and it means a lot to me. I'm happy to do it. I'm glad that somebody's getting something out of this besides myself. I've said it multiple times. The main reason for doing this show for me, to be completely transparent and honest, is to give me an hour to learn how to talk and to build a rundown and to build a lineup and to talk about events and get my opinion out there. And I mean, you'd think that talking for an hour isn't that hard, but until you try to do it, it's amazing how hard it is to fill that amount of time. I remember the first episode I did, you look up at the clock and it was 10 minutes in and I was halfway through my rundown. So this has been a great learning experience for me to slow down and really get my opinion out there. And the fact that somebody enjoys listening to it means a lot. So, yeah, I think our peak last episode was 1,025 listeners, which is crazy. And I thank you all, and I hope we can keep building on that number. Keep telling your friends. Even if you're listening just because you hate me, at least you're listening. So I appreciate you as well. And I'm excited to see where this show goes. And with that, the second announcement, and this one's pretty big because for the first time, I'm giving the listeners an opportunity to have their voice heard on the radio and podcast as well. The phones are set up. The phone line is open. And starting next episode, we will be taking callers. I know there's students on the campus who want their opinions heard, who want to ask me questions or debate with me. Let's embrace debate, as they say at the mothership, and let's let some opinions get in. So, podcast listeners, if you can't listen live, but you can just call in for a couple quick seconds to ask a question, let's do it. The way this is going to work, because I have to be careful with regulations and I guess rules. So how it's going to work, and I can already see multiple situations where this goes horribly wrong, but we're going to give it a shot anyways. I'm going to trust my fans and my listeners to be smart about this. So if you DM me on Twitter or email me at nextptwins@gmail.com or DM on Twitter, Matt_Geely. If you send me your name, first name only, where you're from, and your question, topic, or concern you want to be heard on the show, that can happen sometime throughout the weekend, in the week leading up to it, or live during the show. I'll have it open on my screen, and if you have something you'd like to say, we can make sure that it's heard. And if it's something that I want to talk about, if it's a good question or a question that somebody might want to hear, I will respond right away, because I'll do it as I'm doing the show. We're going to multitask here. I got Brainy Bunch members in the back who are going to help me and watch the phone lines for me. So if you have a question, and then I'll DM or message you or email you back right away a number to call, and then I'll answer the phone and we'll talk away. That way I know who it is before I answer, so I can give you credit on air, as well as make sure that this goes well. Now, just like anything else, couple guidelines and rules: no swearing, no dumb questions, and people who say there's no such thing as a dumb question, yes, there is. Anything that's crazy off topic or has nothing to do with the show, I really don't want to hear it. If you message me a question and then you call in and switch up your question and ask something dumb or inappropriate or wrong, you'll be hung up on, and we have some awesome audio for show killers. We're going to call people who don't understand what they're doing show killers, and let's not kill the show. So make sure you call in. Other than that, I'm open to anything, and if your question is sports related, it's not a dumb question. Let's get that straight. Dumb questions are only questions that have nothing to do with sports, music, entertainment. Basically something that no one wants to hear. That's a dumb question. And there's a good chance I'll still answer it, but you'll lose your phone calling in allowance, I guess. So that's the rules. I'm really excited to do this. I got the number right here, got the phone right here set up, and we'll have some fun. So starting next episode, podcast listeners, try to tune in live if you can. WCCR Purdue on the Tuned In app. You can also go to WCCR.org. WCCR.org. That's where you will find a link that you can click on to listen on your computer, phone, tablet, whatever you got. And we'll make this happen. So looking forward to it. We're also going to have a couple guests coming up in the next couple episodes. So this was a really kind of a mixture of, I got both these newses yesterday, that the phone lines were open and that we hit the 1K listeners. And it's amazing. So we got that going, and looking forward to hearing what you have to say, especially you students here on campus, and really anybody around the country. I know I have some listeners from Texas. I know I have a couple from New Hampshire. Appreciate that. There's like 3 people who email me, and I should look up their names, but I don't know them right now. But they always say so-and-so from New Hampshire. Appreciate that. I've never been to New Hampshire. I don't know much about your state, but hey, if you want to call in and talk about the state of New Hampshire, I'm in. Don't take me with a good time. I'll do that. There we go. All right, so let's get into some of the top headlines for the day before we hit unsportsmanlike conduct. And just a reminder, stay tuned in, because I'm handing out the biggest unsportsmanlike conduct and the one I'm most passionate about I've ever done on the show. And that's not me pulling a the most dramatic, the most whatever. I'm not trying to keep you guys here. I truly believe that this person deserves punished, and we will have that coming up here shortly. This morning it was put out that North Carolina's men's basketball program is going to avoid major sanction. If you remember, they were in trouble for, they called it paper classes, basically meaning they were accused of having their players taking these courses that didn't really exist and just getting an A to keep them eligible and keep the team GPA up. Well, after an investigation by the NCAA, they found that they couldn't prove that just basketball players were getting this treatment, meaning that it was possibly also offered to just students on campus. And if that's the case, it's not technically an infraction because it's not personal benefit, it's a course. And I'm sure stuff like this goes on at a lot of places. I definitely don't think every school has this because I know for a fact a specific one school doesn't. And it's what's crazy about this is it was an NCAA investigation. I mentioned this on the previous show on how there's a big difference between an NCAA investigation and an FBI investigation, and that's why this Adidas and Nike thing is so crazy. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in depth later. But you can't lie to the FBI, but you sure can lie to the NCAA. And I'm not saying that North Carolina is lying or any school lies to the NCAA, but it's possible. So North Carolina is cleared of these charges for the most part. A couple people were deemed not cooperative in the investigation, but overall they're going to avoid any major suspensions or scholarships taken away or fines or anything like that. So that was one bit of news that came out this morning. The other bit of news in the NFL, Ezekiel Elliott has been suspended 6 games. So the court had their ruling and they upheld the 6-game suspension for Ezekiel Elliott. If you don't remember, he is being punished for a alleged what's the word? He was allegedly I think it was a domestic. Man, I can't remember now. I don't want to get it wrong because then it's not a good look for me or Zeke. Anyways, he's getting a 6-game suspension.
The Elliott's lawyers have the option.
That's audio. Okay, let's make sure that doesn't happen again. Suspension. He played the first 5 games. I think this one was this suspension was the one that dated back to his days in college. He had several physical disputes in the summer of 2016 with his girlfriend, and prosecutors in Columbus, Ohio did not pursue the case. But after she sued and the NFL looked into it, they are indeed suspending him 6 games. So there we go. It was a domestic dispute, I guess you could say, between Ezekiel Elliott and his girlfriend. So he is suspended for those 6 games. The Cowboys are on a bye week this week, so it'll be interesting to see if in that week Dallas is able to appeal again. This is getting to the point where this is way past my expertise. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how many times can you appeal something, and how many different courts can you take it to. That's 2 pieces of information I don't even know. But it's interesting that this court did find him guilty. Zeke hasn't had the career year he had last year. I don't know if he called a sophomore slump or if people are just loading the box and trying to make Dallas beat you in the air, which is what every team should do. But he had a couple really bad games. He's not by any means having a horrible year, but it's just not to the standards that he was rushing at last year. Also, the last bit of breaking news that happened this morning was U.S. men's soccer team fires their head coach, Bruce Arena. Fires, resigns, call it what you want. He was asked out, almost guaranteed. And rightfully so. USA men's team is going to miss the World Cup. First time since the 1980s that's happened. And not a good look for USA or USA Soccer. When you compare it and you listen to some of the soccer experts talk about it, the word embarrassing gets thrown around a lot. It's embarrassing that a country our size with the player pool we have can't qualify for a World Cup. We can't beat Trinidad and Tobago, whatever. And that loss this week proved to be the deciding factor, and USA is left out of the World Cup. So they fire their coach. That was almost inevitable. Somebody had to be responsible for what happened, and the U.S. coach is the one who gets the punishment. Last week in the NFL, 2 huge injuries, season-ending injuries. Odell Beckham Jr. and J.J. Watt both leave their games with injuries, and that is enough to knock him out for the season. J.J. Watt suffered a fracture in his tibia. Odell, I think it was an ankle fracture, so 2 fractures, and both were visibly upset as they were leaving the field. The NFL is having a ratings problem. There's a lot of reasons that could go into that. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty details of it. I'm sure some of it has to do with the anthem protest. I'm sure some of it has to do with the product on the field. But they took a big hit last weekend, losing 2 of these players. I mean, 2 of the top 5 most popular players in the NFL. Odell Beckham Jr. is the most popular player in the NFL. J.J. Watt probably falls into the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th category, depending on where you want to put Brady, Rodgers, and I would say he's somewhere within those. It's Odell, and then it's either Brady, Rodgers, or J.J. Watt, and no doubt the biggest, most popular defensive player in the NFL. So you lose 2 of your top 4. That's tough, and it comes at a time where the NFL can't afford to lose players like that. I don't know if there's anything you can do to look into what's happening. I mean, J.J. Watt, he's going to go down in the Hall of Fame because of his stats in a couple years. But when you look at it, he's hardly been able to play a full season healthy. And after a while, you have to question how valuable to his team he really is. When he's on the field, he's amazing, but he's spending a lot of time off the field injured, and that's not his fault altogether. But, he's a big dude. He's a strong, big dude, and I don't know if that has something to do with it or the fact that the way he trains in the offseason, he just seems fragile. And for a guy that big, it's hard to believe how he could be so fragile, but he is. Odell, on the other hand, he got hit low in preseason, and that brought out some question about should we be policing defensive backs, hitting wide receivers low, closer? And then you get in the argument of, okay, well, if they can't hit him high, can't hit him low, where do you want him to hit him? But he had a tough injury, and he was in a contract dispute coming into the year. People thought he was going to sit out. He didn't. He's under contract next year. It's his final year of his contract, and if you're the Giants, I'm not sure you pay him what he's going to need to be paid to stick around after next year. I definitely expect him to hold out this offseason and demand a contract. And if I'm the Giants, I don't know if I give it up or not. So that'll be something to watch here in the offseason. And I don't want to say I told you so, but keeping on the signing and NFL talk here, I didn't have time to pull back the audio, but if anybody wants to tweet at me or question me, I'll be happy to send it out. There's the story last week of Adrian Peterson signing with the Cardinals. A certain someone on, I think, either the first or second episodes of the season mentioned I think it was after the second game, Adrian Peterson was super upset about the lack of carries he was getting. It was right after David Johnson went down for the Cardinals' season-ending injury. And I said, if I'm Adrian Peterson, I'm calling Arizona or I'm calling the Giants, and I'm seeing if they want to make a deal. And lo and behold, Adrian Peterson joins the Arizona Cardinals after they release Chris Johnson. He's going to get his carries. It'll be exciting to see him in uniform this weekend. He came out saying he wants to play a few more years. He's going to have to show something left in the tank for that to be the case. But I kind of called that one, and it's kind of a bad look for him and the Saints and Sean Payton, but only for a couple seconds because it will be long and forgotten before long. I don't know if that made sense, but you know what I mean. And it'll be interesting to see how much of an impact he has on a Cardinals team that has no running game at the moment. David Johnson, one of the top running backs in the league, goes down, and it's hard to replace him. So it'll be interesting to see what Peterson is able to do about that. Last night in the MLB, it was the Chicago Cubs over the Washington Nationals by a score of 9-8. It was a weird game. It was definitely a exciting game. If you like scoring and you like craziness, you saw a lot.
Washington with the home field Thursday. Cubs with the.
Man, I don't know if that scared you guys, but that sure scared me. Man, that's gonna be fun to watch back on the podcast. I just jumped like 10 feet in the air. I keep on see what I'm doing. Just so we're all clear, I'm clicking on my computer. Like at that moment, I pulled up the box score on ESPN.com, and with ESPN nowadays, you click on anything, and there's a video that goes with it, which I get because people love watching videos. But I clicked on this box score, and this video popped up, and I still got my sound on. I have it on way too high to begin with, and it's that one got me. As I was saying, 9-8 final, and if you're into scoring and you're into crazy baseball, you got it last night. Cubs scored 1 in the first, followed by 4 in the second from the Nationals. Cubs got 2 back in the third. Then Cubs put up a 4 spot in the fifth, and they never looked back from there except for their bullpen tried their hardest to give it away. And Cubs bullpen's been a problem all postseason. We could say all season long. I wouldn't say a problem, but it's a glaring concern, I think is a fair way to put it. Wade Davis comes in for the Cubs, throws 2 1/3 inning, gives up 1 earned, 3 Ks, 2 walks, and gets the save. A big save, really. I don't know if it's the most pitches he's thrown in a game, but it's got to be up there as one of the most innings pitch he's ever had. Daniel Murphy with the homer for the Nationals. And Chris Taylor also hit a homer for the Nationals. On the other side, doubles by John Jay, Chris Bryant, Addison Russell, RBIs from Rizzo. Russell had 4, Jay and Bryant. And Cubs get the win. They had to use 2, 4, 6, 7 pitchers in the game. Nationals used 2, 4, 6, 7 as well. You saw Quintana come in and throw 2/3 of an inning. So that's a starter coming back in. Hendricks was the starter in the game for the Cubs. He only went 4 innings, giving up 9 hits, 4 earned runs, and 2 of those were home runs. I would have to imagine that Chicago will probably go with Quintana game 1. Game 1 coming up on Saturday at the Dodgers. So you got Cubs, Dodgers, and Yankees, Astros. Yankees, Astros starts tonight, first game. Likely to see Dallas Keuchel. I don't know if it's been officially announced as the starter, but that's likely going to be the case in that one. But going back to the Cubs, I would have to imagine that, I don't know, Joe Madden is one of the better regular season coaches we've seen in the MLB, and it's going to put him in the Hall of Fame for what he's done. But he gets into the playoffs, and he makes some really questionable decisions with that bullpen. Mike Montgomery has not been good at all this entire postseason, and it's showing. It really is. I don't know. I mean, you look up and down that bullpen. Last night you used Wade Davis, who pitched well. Quintana, who you probably don't want to throw because I have to imagine he's the front runner to start on Saturday. Carl Edwards Jr., Strope, Dunsing, who technically gets the win in the game. Oh no, Montgomery gets the win. Why does it say? That's weird. It's like list 2 things. Anyways, so you have to think that Quintana is going to be your game 1 starter on Saturday, and I think for the Cubs to have a chance to beat the Dodgers, first off, I think the Cubs have a better offense than the Dodgers. I think the Cubs have a better defense than the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers have the upper hand in pitching with their bullpen. Kenley Jensen is one of the better closers, and I think he's the best closer in the MLB right now. And I think for the Cubs to have a chance, first off, they're going to have to give this bullpen a rest. It's nice to get a day off, but you're going to need in game 1 or game 2, you need one of your starters to go deep in the game. You can't keep having, like last night, Hendricks went 4 innings. You can't let that happen. You need either Hendricks, Quintana, Arrieta, or Lester to step up and get you into the 7th or 8th inning in a game. And I know it's the playoffs and it's quick hooks, but you need somebody to be dominant because there's a great chance that on the other side, either Yu Darvish or Clayton Kershaw, one of those two is going to be dominant in a game. Kershaw's having a pretty good postseason. I know overall history shows that he's not a great postseason pitcher, but he's going to go game one, and you have to think that it's vital. It's so important that the Cubs get off to a good start with Quintana, or I don't know who game two would be. Probably Lester. I don't know. It's completely up in the air who you throw, but Dodgers are almost going to, I would think, go Kershaw then Darvish. Not 100% positive on that. Obviously, nothing's been released yet, but that's just a guess from me. Everybody thought that the Dodgers would have some trouble with the Diamondbacks. They took care of them with ease. 9-5, 8-5, 3-1, sweep. And on the other side, you have a Cubs team who comes in who's not going to be as rested. I don't think it makes a whole lot of difference. You get into the playoffs and adrenaline takes over, and you find a way to show energy. So I don't really believe in the whole Cubs are going to be tired. I think the bullpen being tired is a fair prediction, which just adds to the fact that you need somebody to go deep in the game. But Dodgers technically are well rested, if you want to say that. I don't know if that makes you rusty. I don't really believe in any of that crap, and it's a fun storyline to throw out. But I think the Cubs, I think if the Cubs want to win it, they need to do it I don't think you want to go to 7. You don't want to go back to the Dodgers. I think you want to win it at home, so game 5. I think if it goes past 5, you're in trouble. You got to at least have the series lead after 5. I think that's basically the way these 7-game series works, no matter what sport you play, hockey or baseball. The thought is if you have home field advantage, so it's the Dodgers who have home field advantage, they get games 1, 2, 6, and 7 at home. So if you're the Dodgers, you think, okay, protect home field, you win the series. Fine. Now, if you're the road team, you have to think, okay, you have to steal one on the road and protect home. If you're a Cub fan and you need to steal one on the road, you want to do it in game 1 or 2. Because if the Dodgers go back to Chicago up 2-0, it puts a lot of pressure on that starting pitcher in game 3 and game 4 for the Cubs to keep their team alive. Because if you're down 2-0 going home, it's almost impossible to win the series if you don't win either game 3 or game 4 at home. You obviously have to win at least one of the two, or else it's a sweep. But if you go into game 4 down 3-0, I think history shows that's really hard to come back from. So that being said, I think the Dodgers win the series in 6. I think that if it goes to a game 6, it's the Dodgers to lose. But if the Cubs want to do it, I think they need to steal a game 1 and then win 3, 4, 5, or steal one. Or if you can steal both on the road, that's crazy. But if you can steal 1 or 2, then you're up 2-0 going home. That puts you in an amazing position. So that'll be interesting to watch. And then the other side, you got Astros, I guess Yankees. Not exactly who everybody thought was going to be the matchup after the Indians looked like one of the best teams in the MLB. I thought they went into the playoffs as my favorite to win the World Series. I thought they had the best pitching staff. Their bullpen is great, and they had enough offense to carry them there. Come to find out, they didn't have enough offense to carry them there, and Yankees find a way to win it. And they did it without Aaron Judge, really. He's slumping right now in the postseason, and every time he's up to bat, there's that chance for a highlight, and that's what makes people tune into the games. And I think that he's going to need to obviously step it up if the Yankees want to have any shot against the Astros. Astros beat a really good Red Sox team, really, really good Red Sox team. And Jose Altuve is the MVP of the league and the best player of the playoffs so far. So you put Dallas Keuchel on the mound here game 1, who's been dominant. And you have the lineup that Houston has behind him, and then you go Verlander, who's thrown well in the postseason. You have to imagine that the Yankees are in a deep hole going into this series. Stros have the upper hand with home field advantage. Game 1 can be seen tonight on FS1 at 8 p.m. It says 8:08, so I think it probably will start around 8:20. So there is that. There's a little baseball recap. I had a poll question up this morning about the MLB, and the question was something along the lines of, are these games too long, too short, or just the right amount of time? And I took the poll down because I didn't really care for it. After I wrote it, I was like, I don't really like this because I feel like that no matter how long the game is, if you want to watch, you're going to watch. And if you don't really care, you'll half watch it or you won't watch at all. And I don't think it's good for the MLB that these games are going until 12:30, 1 a.m. Eastern time. I don't think it's good that they're taking 4.5, 5 hours to complete. That being said, I think that baseball junkie fans or fans of the game are going to watch. I watched, and I don't even have a team in the race that I like. And it's also going to help the MLB that you get Houston, you get Chicago, you get New York, and you get LA. Those are your main cities of viewing, and those are four of the best baseball heavy towns in the U.S. So I have to imagine the ratings are going to be great. So I'm sure the MLB and these TV stations, Fox and TBS, are really excited about that. But with that, you have a big lens on you, so you have to make sure these games are entertaining and they flow better. And I don't know how you fix that, but I think that you kill the chances of the casual fan really tuning in. You don't hurt the baseball diehard fan, and you don't hurt the I don't like baseball fan because they're just not going to watch. But that middleman, I think these games are going so long, it's hard for the middleman to get invested and to care. With that, there's no secret that going to a baseball game is better than watching a baseball game on TV. Not a single person, I think, would argue with that. Unlike other sports where, in my opinion, staying home and watching an NFL game is better than going to the stadium and watching an NFL game, it makes it surprising that the ratings are down so much. It's so expensive to go to these games. It's just as easy to buy a Sunday ticket and stay home and watch the Red Zone and watch your team play. Personally, there's nothing better for me than Sunday throwing on a pair of sweats, making some food, and just watching the Red Zone for 6 hours and just enjoying life. So, but on the other hand, baseball, it's nice to be out in the sunshine, sitting at a park. Everything that the ambiance of the stadium and everything that goes into it's more family friendly than other sporting events. I mean, you can't go a week without seeing an NFL video of fans in the stands getting in fist fights. I think hockey is an exception. I think hockey is better live. But now with HD TV and how far we've come with Blu-ray and 4K TV and surround sound, hockey is better to watch on TV than it was. But I still think going there and watching it live, at least in my personal opinion, going to Chicago Blackhawks games, it's the best sporting event I've ever been to. And I've been to countless Purdue games, Bears games, White Sox games, Tigers games. I've even seen, I've seen Pacer games. Like, I've seen locally probably every sporting event there is, and going to Chicago Blackhawks games was by far the most fun. So I think certain NHL rinks have the ambiance and the experience that make it better than watching on TV. But all in all, baseball is really the only sport that no matter where you go, it's better live than on TV. So it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully these series are entertaining and they go the distance, 5, 6, 7 games, because it's more fun to watch, and I think it gives baseball a better reputation. And people, I don't know if the Cubs are definitely not the same story they were last year. They're not the same amount of excitement around it because they've already accomplished what everybody thought was impossible. So now it's still, if you're a Cubs fan or a casual sports fan and you don't mind the Cubs, I think you're rooting for them. But I think it's also to see a team like Houston. I think Houston will have a lot of following, and the Yankees always bring in a huge market. So a lot of big name stars still left in this postseason. It'll be interesting to see which ones step up and which ones get overshadowed. Okay, we got to move on because we still have a couple big things to talk about. First off, let's get into unsportsmanlike conduct because these are important, and I saved it till later in the show because I didn't want it to dominate the show because I'm afraid that this is some I mean, this is big stuff here. So here we go. Let me get my volume turned back up after that crazy video that was played earlier. And here is unsportsmanlike conduct.
And now, an unsportsmanlike conduct.
Personal foul, number 15, unsportsmanlike conduct.
That's a horrible call!
First, unsportsmanlike conduct. I got 3 for you guys today. One of them sports related. The other 2 are not. I'm going to save the big one for the end. So let me get these other 2 out of the way first. First off, there's a story about a Russian broadcaster doing a soccer game. And if you've there's videos all over the place of soccer broadcasters. They're crazy. Like they're from a different breed. They get really fired up. This guy, he got so mad at a referee for the calls he was making in the second half that he left the booth. And he went on like a 2-minute rant, which you can find on YouTube. It's in Russian, so I don't know what it says, but it sounds passionate and mad and angry, and I respect him for it. But he went on a 2-minute rant about the refs, and then you just hear the mic drop, and then his headphones hitting the table, and he's out. And the last 25 minutes of the game is dead air. No one's even broadcasting. And after interviewing the guy afterwards, he didn't swear, and he was proud of himself for that. He said he went that in the whole 2-minute rant, he didn't say one swear word, and he doesn't plan on apologizing to anybody for what he said and for his actions leaving the booth. I'm personally under the opinion that the show must go on, and he probably should have continued broadcasting the game because that's what he gets paid to do. I'm not sure if the network, I don't know how they do things in Russia. I would have to guess that they're not happy because it's pretty well known that Russians a lot of times aren't happy at all. But it'll be interesting to see if there's any backlash. I don't know if I'll follow up and figure that out, but I just thought that was kind of funny. So unsportsmanlike conduct to this Russian broadcaster for deciding to grab some bench and to sit out the rest of the show. You got to power through no matter how bad of a call a ref makes, and for sure don't get so invested in the team that this affects you. Probably should calm down a little bit and maybe just relax. Number 2, and this one, quick story, backstory behind it, and this unsportsmanlike conduct goes to, and everybody, we've all been there, and I'm sure a lot of us have done this, so I think we all are guilty, but why is it that we feel the need to laugh at jokes from important people that aren't funny? I thought of this last night because I went to an event on campus at the Cranert, it was in their auditorium, and it was celebrating the 30th anniversary of C-SPAN. And C-SPAN, if I'm sure we all know what C-SPAN is, it's that station that it's 24/7 cameras on our government and Congress floor and the Senate. The creator of C-SPAN was a graduate from Purdue, Brian Lamb, and he came back to have a talk about and to celebrate, and he had a panel, and they just discussed C-SPAN and where it's come over the years, over the 30 years in existence. And our president at Purdue, Mitch Daniels, was up at the podium introducing him, and he'd cracked about 5 jokes. I would say one of them was sincerely funny, 2 of them were kind of funny, and then the other 2 I didn't think were funny at all. Not that he was trying not to be funny, it just didn't work out to where maybe I just didn't get it. But at each one of the jokes, the audience laughed hysterically, and I was kind of looking around like I didn't find that funny. And even the one that was funny, I didn't really see a reason to laugh out loud. It was more like that was kind of funny. But I moved on. But like you see this all the time with like when if like the president of the United States, no matter who it is, like if a team comes to comes to the White House on a visit, or if he's at a meet and greet, he'll say a joke, and no matter if it's funny or not, everybody laughs, almost like it's an uncomfortable or awkward laugh, or what's the case behind it, I don't know. But unsportsmanlike conduct to us all for not holding people of power at the same regards of everybody else, as far as let's not laugh at jokes unless they're funny. And last but not least, and it's kind of funny because I'm doing this and there's a tour outside. And so they're probably wondering what I'm doing and what's going on here. And not only that, but after I give out this last unsportsmanlike conduct, they're really going to question what this show is and what I'm doing. So this is kind of funny for me. But the last unsportsmanlike conduct of the day goes to something that I saw happen as I was walking home from class yesterday on campus. There was what looked to be like a dead squirrel in the middle of the road, and I didn't really see it. I didn't really think much of it. I was just walking home. I had headphones in, and next thing I know, this kid, a student at Purdue, like runs off the sidewalk into the middle of the road and picks up this squirrel by its tail, and it's dead, and he like runs out of the way of traffic so he doesn't get hit. And next thing you know, he's pulling out a bag and he's like putting this squirrel in the bag. And I was like thinking to myself, well, that's weird. First off, that's definitely weird. But maybe he was just like cleaning up the road. Or I for a second, I had a little bit of respect for him for having the guts to go out there and touch the thing because it was dead. But next thing you know, he must have. I was walking towards him. He must have seen the reaction on my face because I had pulled my headphones out and I was probably giving him like a weird look, like, dude, what are you doing? And he says something to me like, oh, it's for research. And that's when it hit me like, oh, like three things that immediately came to my mind. And this guy, I don't know who you are, and I hope you're listening because I think that we have a serious problem here with your research. First off, do you always walk around with what looked to be like a blue, like it looked like one of those newspaper bags, but it was probably made for like to grab research animals, I guess. I don't know what he does, but like first off, yeah, what do you do that you need a dead squirrel? Second, do you always have that bag in your pocket? Because that's kind of weird. And third, and this is where it gets crazy, he picked it up with his bare hand, right? He puts it in the bag, he ties the bag off, he sets the bag on the ground, and then he pulls out of his back pocket gloves. And he puts the gloves on, and then he picks up the bag. You just touched the squirrel with your bare hands before putting on the gloves, man. Did you forget you had them? If the squirrel's in the bag, I don't know anything about diseases or squirrel diseases or dead animal diseases, but I would have to imagine that after it's in the bag, you're somewhat safe. So the gloves kind of seem like overkill, but maybe the gloves on before touching said squirrel would have been the move. So he looked at me and said, it's for research, and I didn't really respond. I didn't know what to say. I don't think that saying that something's for research defends the fact that you touched it with your bare hands, man. And not only that, but now you're lugging this thing around campus for who knows how long. And what are you studying about a dead squirrel? We love squirrels here at Purdue. They'd come right up to you. They'll say hi to you. They're great classmates, you could even call them. But that was a situation I'd never seen before. And this guy deserves the biggest unsportsmanlike conduct I could possibly give a human being, because there's no way you should be touching squirrels with your bare hands that are dead. You risked your life to run out in the middle of traffic to grab it. Thought that was weird. And the weirdest part is you tie off the bag, squirrel's tucked away, and then you throw on the gloves. Unsportsmanlike conduct, sir. I can't believe you touched it.
And now, unsportsmanlike conduct.
Personal foul, number 15 on sportsmanlike conduct.
That's a horrible call!
So there's our unsportsmanlike conduct segment of the day. We just got 10 minutes left here in the show. Next point wins. Reminder, if you missed the beginning and you're listening live, students, phone lines are open starting next week. DM me, Matt_Geely on Twitter, or email me at nextptwins@gmail.com. Your questions, comments, or concerns, I will respond with the number to call in so you can get on the line and we can hear from you and hear your voice and let your voice be heard on the air. Also, thank you to everybody who got us to 1,000 listeners last week. Means a lot to me in the program. Everybody in the back, we work hard and we appreciate you taking the time to tune in and listen. Top show here on campus, and hopefully we keep that up. I'll have our next checkup meeting is coming up here, so I'll be sure to update you and to make sure that no one's taken over our top spot. These last 2 quarters, we've been able to hold top air. So I appreciate that. Let's get into my starting 5 picks for the weekend. In college football, I'm taking Auburn over LSU. That's a lock for me. I'm also going to take Texas over Oklahoma. And real quick, if you haven't seen the video online, you can just Google Texas student tackles Oklahoma fan. This Oklahoma fan came into it looks like a class at UT. and he started smack talking about Oklahoma and Baker Mayfield and how come on Saturday because they're going to win and this and that. And then out of the blue, this Texas student comes flying in and just takes the dude down, just smokes him. It was hilarious. Just because of that, I'm taking Texas to win the game because that's a great tackle. And if he can tackle that good, I can only imagine how well the team's going to tackle on Saturday. There's a 9-point spread on that game. I think Texas loses within 9 or beats them outright. Either way, that's a winner for me. I'm also going to take West Virginia over Texas Tech. Well, I got a lot of Texas schools in the starting 5 this week. Not a lot of big games around college football as far as matchups go. So that's one that this is one that's going to be at least somewhat close. I'm going to take the upset, West Virginia over Texas Tech. And just to keep on the Texas trend, I'm going to take UT San Antonio, that's right, UTSA, over North Texas. Why am I taking UTSA over North Texas? I don't know, but I'm taking them. Last but not least, last starting 5 pick, Purdue over Nebraska. Yeah, of course I'm taking Purdue over Nebraska. I'm not going to pick against Purdue. 7th-ranked Nebraska. Purdue takes them on the road, coming off of a huge win against Minnesota. And for any students who were here on fall break and were able to see the game, what a crazy game you did see with the weather delay and then coming back and getting the win. I was at a wedding reception. It's the only game I haven't worked since being here on campus. And I was like on the dance floor with my phone in my hand, watching the game as I was getting down with the get down with my family and a bunch of friends. It was a lot of fun at the wedding reception. We seem to always have a good time whenever we get the clan together to go celebrate somebody getting married. But I was watching the game on my phone, and I was going crazy for them. I was happy for the Boilers, and I think that why not, right? Why not us? Let's shock the world. Let's go to Nebraska, and let's take care of business. Get right back in that Big Ten hunt. So those are my starting 5 picks for the weekend. What to watch this weekend, 16th ranked Purdue Volleyball has their game in Mackey Arena on Saturday night against number 4 Nebraska. It's the Pac Mackey game of the year. It's always an awesome event. Students get out to the game. It's free for everybody. Go see the 16th ranked Boilers take on Nebraska. A couple other things that I saw that kind of caught my eye that I just felt like I needed to get out here. Real quick, on the topic of wedding receptions, I don't know. I'm kind of curious. Tweet in and email me, and maybe we'll talk on the show next time. But I'm sure everybody's gone to wedding receptions in the fall. Fall weddings are always beautiful and a good time. But I guess I just question, like, what's the protocol on watching football at these receptions? We had a lot of Purdue fans at this reception, so a lot of people had it on their phone and were watching it as the reception was going on, and it was a lot of fun. But the venue we're at didn't have a TV, so you had to like watch it on your phone or whatever you had. But I was questioning, like, is that technically socially acceptable, or how far is too far, whatnot? I don't know. That's just something that popped in my head. Basically, everything that's from here on out is just stuff that popped in my head that I wanted to get in these last 6 minutes of the program. Next on the list, and we've talked about Tom Brady's diet on this show before because he eats some really weird stuff, and I think he eats probably better than his wife, Giselle. But this is somewhat new news. It's within a couple months. I don't know how I let it slip by the cracks when it first came out. But Tom Brady, he released a new diet book, and pretty excited about that. And a couple of things he put in this book are hilarious. And I'm gonna pull out some of the spark notes or the main events of the book because it's $30 if you want to go buy it. But I think that what I'm about to tell you is all you need to know as far as a review of it or if you should go get it. First off, he tells people that drinking water prevents sunburn. TB12, Touchdown Tommy, I don't think that's true. I don't know who told you that, but he says that he's seen, since he's been drinking more water, he doesn't get sunburn. I don't think there's any correlation between the two. I'm going to guess he puts on some sunblock or wears a hat when his helmet's on. I'm sure he doesn't get sunburn then, but in general, I don't think that's possible, Tom. So I don't know where that came from, but that's in the book. Also, this is funny. He gives like a lasagna recipe, and it's got like no ingredients that you would find in lasagna, but he calls it a lasagna. And one of the instructions for making the lasagna, it says soak tomatoes in water for 2 to 6 hours until soggy. 2 to 6 hours? There's a 4-hour gap there, man. That's a huge, like 2 or 6 is a huge difference. Can we lock it down? Can we narrow the gap a little bit? Maybe 2 to 3 hours. I'll take 2 to 4, but 2 to 6? I'm gonna put it in, and then in 2 hours, from 2 hours on, I gotta check it. I've never like made a cooking book or like wrote my own recipe, but I feel like a 4 hour gap's too long. So that's in there. This is funny, this is a quote. Even for athletes who play professional sports, an occasional tomato or mushroom won't harm you. I don't know if like maybe I need better context on what he said before and after that statement, but I'm certain that tomatoes and mushrooms won't harm you at all, especially if they're washed correctly and they're in good shape. I don't think that you have to be a professional athlete to have a tomato or a mushroom. And I don't know if I think maybe it's just like bad wording. Maybe won't harm you is the wrong choice of words, TB12. Maybe you're trying to say like health-wise it's not going to hurt you. Like as far as staying in Tom Brady type shape if you have a mushroom or a tomato every once in a while. But somebody should have probably edited that for him to make it sound a little better. And this is the best one, and this is the recipe that's getting all the attention because this is his go-to dessert. And tell me if you don't think this sounds delicious. Avocado ice cream. First off, if you look up the picture, and you can look up all this stuff on Google, just Google anything I've said about this book, and it'll pop right up for you. You can look up an image of this avocado ice cream. First off, and most importantly, it's not ice cream. Let's start there. You can call it mush, like baby food, pudding, I guess, maybe a sherbet of short, a sherbet, but for sure not ice cream. No doubt in my mind that's not ice cream. It looks like moldy avocado. It looks like somebody burned avocado and threw it in a bowl. Not ice cream. I don't care if you freeze it. That's not ice cream. And he describes it as not the worst thing you will ever eat. What a positive description that is, Mr. the Goat. Not the worst thing you will ever eat. When I think of desserts, the first thing that pops in my head is I want to eat something that I want to eat a dessert that's not the worst. I don't really need it to taste good, I guess. If dessert should taste good. You shouldn't have to put worst in a description of a dessert. And this avocado ice cream looked disgusting. But if anybody goes out there and sees any of these recipes and tries them, let me know. Personally, I'm not going to touch any of it. Everything looked expensive, and all the ingredients you could buy off his website. So I don't think anybody should be trying to eat like Tom Brady, to be honest with you. I think we're better off eating Anthony Adams would be a good start for me. Spice Adams from the Big Ten Network. He eats a lot of good food. Eat what makes you happy. Trying to diet on stuff that you don't like is not going to work ever. So that's just a little tidbit. And we got to wrap up the show here. Let's get a look at the poll question results from this first hour of activity. The question was, new poll, which professional sport does the coach have the most impact on a team? MLB wins at 56%, NFL right behind at 33%, NBA at 11%, and nobody votes for NHL. I would put MLB first, NHL second, NFL third, and NBA fourth. I don't see what NBA coaches do at all. I don't even know if you need them. You could probably have player coaches and save some money. Personal opinion. But there's a recap of the poll. One more time, thank you for everybody who made this show possible. 1,000 listeners. You guys are awesome. Call in next week. Send out, DM me, email me what you want to talk about on the show, and we'll have you on. Looking forward to it. Hopefully, I'm going to come in here before next show and make sure the phones work and everything's set good to go. But I've been given the all clear sign. Remember, follow the rules. Don't be a show killer, because no one likes show killers, not even me. This has been Next Point Wins. My name is Matthew Geely. Catch soccer on Sunday. Go to volleyball Saturday night. Have a great weekend, students. And last but not least, go Knights. Let's win it in the trenches tonight. Let's get it done.